Again, welcome to this webinar, a webinar that's called 6 must-do tips for Google Shopping. Of course, it's not must-do, but these are some of the the best practices we learned over the past few years doing business with Google, and of course the last year actually with Google Shopping and the enhanced CPC bidding. So, what can you expect today? Well, actually a brief introduction of AdCurve and myself. Touch upon Google. How does Google work? You are probably familiar with it, but let me explain a little bit what it means and how you can influence Google and the performance of your ads on Google. Then I'm going to give you six tips that are aimed to maximize your profit from Google Shopping, tips that you can implement today and do yourself. And I've also got a case study with some results from a client of ours. So first, a little bit about AdCurve. We started out back in 2008. I used to be a business manager, managed a number of companies, and one of the most frustrating things was that I didn't know which channels were actually driving my sales. Where did the money really come from? I knew that I had to pay a lot of money to all the different advertising agencies and companies and advertising channels, but in the end, I didn't really know who was driving my sales and more importantly, who was making me the profit. So that's been in our DNA, making advertising profitable. We started out in 2008, back in the days, mainly with feed management, but you can distribute the feed to many different advertising channels. So then you need to know exactly what does it mean for all the different channels, because you know one thing for certain, in every order, multiple touch points are involved. So you need to know exactly, you need to know who is, well, basically who you can attribute to sales to, right? So we were one of the pioneers in data-driven marketing and conversion attribution. We won a number of awards for that. And currently we have roughly 300 web shops as a client based in the US and in Europe, United Kingdom, France, Germany, the Netherlands, and some Scandinavia. As I said, you know that multiple touch points are involved in every order, so it doesn't make sense to only optimize or only look at one channel individually, like Google Shopping. So therefore, we also look at other channels like Facebook or comparison shopping engines, all the comparison shopping engines, retargeting networks, the affiliate networks, and you need to bring all the cost and all the profit together, and then you really know what's driving your sales. This is our belief. Our belief is every ad should be profitable. But you know one thing for sure, on every channel you have ads that are profitable, but you also have ads that are not profitable. And the risk that you run is that about 50% of your ad spend is wasted, because on the one hand, you don't want to take out ads that may drive revenue, or you are actually spending too little. You may increase your CPC bids because there's a lot more potential there, but you don't know of it. So whatever you do, it's probably not good enough. At least that was our experience. But then you got to know which is 50%. What are we talking about here? So let's talk about Google. There are actually two main factors that you can influence, or two factors that Google use to influence your performance. Number one is the content, the visibility of your ads. Google has a number of criteria. One of them is, they call it the quality score. That's, for example, based on the performance of your site, speed, whether you're loading pictures, if people have a high click-through rate, etc., etc. And another one that's really important is really the content. So the description, the titles, the pictures that you use, how relevant are they to the user? In other words, can they find immediately what they're looking for, and is the click-through rate from those ads really good? So the content from your product ads is key, really key. The second factor, which is a major one, of course, is the cost per click. The cost per click for Google Shopping is set in AdWords. As you can see here, we are talking about product group, bidding groups. I'll come back to that a little bit later. But managing the CPC is also crucial, because sometimes you can bid a lot more than you expect. And actually, sometimes you need to reduce the bid and you can still make a lot of profit from it. So these are the two main factors that you can use to influence the performance of your ads. So let's look at the 6 must-do tips. Actually, number 1 is enhance the product titles. I'll show you in a minute. You can do it basically with all the software that you already use. For example, on Shopify, you can already do a lot of content optimization, but adding specific criteria, variables, sizes, color, etc., to the product title is not possible. So, but it is crucial because people look for it. So, again, in order to increase the relevance, you need to have all the criteria in the search terms. The second tip is make sure that you map your products to the correct Google category, especially in fashion and media like CDs and games. It's necessary, but my advice is to do it for all the products, because it'll increase the visibility of your ads. And also to add some additional elements, like, for example, the age group, the gender, add them to the product feed. And set some basic rules. For example, distribute only relevant product ads, as you can see. And you don't want to sell products that are not in stock, or at least you don't want to advertise with products that are not in stock. Because if people click on your product and they see that it's not in stock, they will step out, and you will have the costs, but they won't buy. And that's also bad for your quality score, because that's a non-relevant ad. So you want to only distribute relevant product ads. And you need to monitor the performance of your ads. And as you saw in the beginning, our DNA is profit, so it's about the return. What profit are you making from your ads? If you know the profit, then you can optimize. And the best way of optimizing on Google Shopping is by using bidding groups. I'll explain a little bit later, but the essential part is you cannot optimize on an individual product on Google. You need volume. You need a volume to optimize your products, and therefore you need to cluster them. You need to categorize them. And the best way of doing it are bidding groups. And of course, if you can all do all of this manually, but that's going to take a lot of time, and you probably have better things to do. So therefore, the 6th tip is automate the process. Set the rules, do the bidding, and let a system do the work for you. Right. Before we jump into the optimization part, because I'm going to show you what it means, let's first look at a customer case. The customer case that I explained at the beginning. I'm not sure if the screen has switched already, because on my screen it has. Sometimes it can take a lot of time to switch. Okay, let's assume that it has switched. This is a case from a customer that sells men and women clothes. The main channels they're using are Google Shopping, Criteo for the retargeting, and also CJ, the former Commission Junction. So it's an affiliate network. And at the start of the optimization process, the process took about 3 months. So at the start of the process, they made roughly $46,000 revenue per month, and they made about $1,000 profit. So that was okay, but we started. I think we have just switched the screen. So again, so it's in the fashion industry, and as you can see, the revenue was $46,500, and the profit was about $1,000. Right. So the first few tips were actually all about content. So how do you enhance the content? Well, first, improve the visibility of your ads. Place your product in the right Google category. especially in fashion, as I said before, age group, add the age group and the gender, and also enhance the product title. And advertise with actual and relevant products, products that are in stock, products under a certain selling price. Because, for example, if the product is less than $10 and you also need to spend money on shipping costs, and the margin is pretty low, then you don't even want to advertise with that product. You do want to sell it, but you don't want to advertise with it. And maybe also products that are below a certain margin, or products that you don't have an agreement with the vendor or the manufacturer, that so you cannot sell it in a certain region, whatever. So you can exclude them from your campaign. So you can do that on brands or in categories or on other levels. So you make sure that you only advertise with actual and relevant products. So how can you do that? Well, let me give you an example. I'll take you to AdCurve. So that's the tool that we're using. It's the tool that we sell or distribute. As you can see, this is the dashboard. And in the dashboard, you can see that there are all sorts of, actually all advertising channels are listed here. Like Connexity or Google Shopping, Koku, you name them. The key thing, as we say, is it's all about margin. If you can do without the margin, you can do without the revenue. At least that's my belief. So the focus is on margin, making profitable business, right? Of course, the amount of orders, the amount of visits, and the revenue that's been generated over the past few months. In this case, we're looking at a period of 60 days, by the way. Make all sorts of changes here. Select last 7 days, 14 days, whatever. Okay, so let's focus on the visibility part, so on the content part first. Later, I'm going to explain a little bit about the numbers you're looking at. But in this case, let's focus on the visibility. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select a set of products. For example, this category, and the category contains bikini. So I've just made a selection of all the different bikinis. I'm going to select the products. And in this case, I can map them to the category swimwear in Google Shopping. This is an easy way of doing it. And what I've just done is I've created a rule, which means that every new product in the future is going to be that is in the category bikinis will be mapped to the Google category swimwear. And you can do that for all different categories. You can do that at a higher category level. My advice is do it at a lower category level, because if people are looking, for example, for clothing, they will not look for women's clothing. They will probably look for a dress or bikinis or other clothing, right? So in this case, we've just mapped this set of products to the Google category clothing, swimwear. What we can also do is we can map them to the gender female. This is also important because if people are looking for female swimwear, your product will appear again. This is all about the visibility, right? These are a few simple things to do. I've just selected all products, but maybe you want to do it on a certain set of products. And in this case, I've selected only bikinis, but you can do it, for example, for children, for women, for men, for you name it. So this is about the, first of all, about the visibility and mapping it to Google taxonomy. The second part is actually about the product title. So I've created a rule. Let me show you the rule because I don't want to keep you by entering a rule. But in this case, as you can see below, at the bottom, it says under expected result, it says Karoo 16JR. That's the original product name. But nobody is going to look for that, right? So you want to enhance the title by adding, for example, like I did in this case, the color, which is true black, and the size, so that's the description size and the value size. So for all products in the feed, it will automatically add the color and the size. And you can add a few other rules. I'm not going to show, but you can add a few other rules that say, for example, only if products are in stock. And then that means that if you have, for example, 4 different sizes, like small, medium, large, and extra large, and if extra large and small are not in stock, it will not send the product to Google Shopping, right? So you will only advertise with products that are in stock. And it's not about the product, it's about the variant. So if you have different sizes or different colors or whatever, and those are not in stock, you will not advertise with them. By creating those basic rules, and once the rules start running, as I said in the beginning, you want to automate it, you need to set it up properly, but then you can let it go. You can basically send all your products, all the products in Shopify, we import them and you make some rules, and then you only advertise with the actual products. Right? For example, one of the things you can add here as well that I didn't add is the brand. Maybe people look for a brand. Maybe you add, for example, the category to it. So, swimwear. You see, so you can do a lot with the content rules. By the way, you can also do this on Amazon, and that's really powerful because at Amazon you can you have over I think it's over 2,500 characters that you can use as a product title. Basically, it's real estate that's given to you by Amazon. Please use it. So put all the different descriptions, sizes, colors, even competitive names and brands in it. If people look for a certain product, your product will pop up if they use that particular search term, right? So this is like a hacking technique, but you can definitely use it to increase the visibility of your ads. Right. So this is all about the visibility of the ads. But we were also talking about actual products. So actual products are products that are in stock. So products that are not in stock, you don't want to advertise with them. So I've made a selection of all the products that are in stock. I said, okay, so deactivate. So in this case, I've just created a rule that says if a product is not in stock, don't send it to Google Shopping. The reason for stressing this is if the product reappears, so you have an additional stock of those products, they will automatically be distributed to Google Shopping again. So you don't need to manually change this. So again, set some rules and automate it. It doesn't. Of course, I would like you to use AdCurve in the end, but please use a tool to support your business. And supporting this is the management part of advertising. Everything that you can manage, you can also automate. Everything that has to do with marketing, like for example, setting the right prices or creating offers and design and whatever, that's something that you need to take, that you need to do. But let somebody else or let a tool take care of the management for you. Yeah? And distributing products, making selections, making sure that that you don't lose money. That's what you can manage. One of the rules is don't distribute products that are not in stock. Another one, as I said in the beginning, maybe you don't want to advertise with products that have a selling price of less than $10. Well, again, you can exclude them. You know, these are some basic things that you can set up yourself. Right. So your products are out there. You are using Google Shopping. You made a selection of the you map to the Google taxonomy. You know, you increase the visibility, etc. You've also set some basic rules to make sure that you only advertise with the actual products. Then what? Well, then you start spending money. That's one, and you start making money. And as I said in the beginning, you need to focus on the margin. So what's the margin? The margin, or what's the profit? The profit is the margin that you're making minus the ad spend, the costs. So what do you need to know? Well, first of all, you got to know the margin. So how much money are you making? And we're not looking at this one particular product. We're looking at the basket. One ad may drive revenue for 2 or 3 other ads. So the basket may be a lot bigger than this one particular ad. So you always gotta need to look at the full basket size, the full margin driven by this ad. And you also have to know the costs, and that's one of the reasons that we import the costs on a daily basis per ad. Again, not manually, but automated. So let's look at what that means. Well, let's go back to ad curve, and now we're going to look at some numbers. Okay, at the left we have a product. In this case, it's a flip-flop. It's a man's flip-flop. We've had 36 visits in the past 2 months. It has generated $20 in revenue, and it has generated $13 in margin. If you're interested to know how we know the margin, that's because we work with a field that's called floor price. That's not a default field in Shopify, but we have a very nice solution for that. So you can create the floor prices, and by looking at the selling price minus the floor price, we know your acquisition margin basically. That's what you can work with. So that's the margin that it has generated. We also know the costs because we've imported the costs. And if you deduct the cost from the margin, you know your profit. And that gives you the opportunity also to calculate the ROI, right? So in some cases you are making profit, and in some cases you're not making profit. Actually, you're losing quite a lot of money here. So let's analyze a few things. First of all, let's look at some products that, well, make it simple. Show me where the profit is negative. Well, these are all the products that are negative. In total, we've lost about $138. There are 2 things you can do right now. Some advertising channels, CPC channels, do not offer any additional optimization than to deactivate those ads. Right? So, for example, on Connexity or others, you can only deactivate products if you have a negative profit. Google Shopping is different, like Facebook is. You can set a bid. That's what we prefer, that you use the CPC bidding, because that means that even if you're not making the maximum of money, you're still making money, right? But let's assume that a channel doesn't give you any alternative. Again, you can select and you can deactivate the products, and then they're gone. With Google Shopping, we're going to do it a little bit differently. With Google Shopping, we're going to look at the CPC. Let's first explain a little bit about the CPC. So what is a good CPC bid? I've had this discussion many times. People say, I try to keep my CPC bid as low as possible. Well, I understand that, but from a Google perspective, or actually from a opportunity perspective with Google, I'll advise you to do it a little bit differently. I'm just waiting for the screen to switch again. Yeah, there it is. As you can see, there's this graph. Let me explain you what it means. You see the so-called minimum bid. Anything left from the minimum bid, so less than $20 your ad will not show. So you will not lose money, but you will also not make any money. Yeah. So that's what we call minimum bid. And when you increase your CPC bid, so cent by cent, you will start making more money, which means that you will also start making more profit. But at some point, you have exceeded your profit level and you will start losing. So the costs will be higher than the margin. Then you have exceeded the so-called maximum bid, or as Google calls it, the max CPC. The big difference between what we calculate and what, for example, Google calculates, Google Analytics and AdWords, they use your revenue. So they don't take your margin into account, meaning that if you have different, well, products will usually have different margins, right? You will have certain categories of products that have a very high margin because, for example, they're, I don't know, high margin products, or you're the owner, you're the sole vendor, whatever. And there are products that have a high competition, retail, top retail brands, like for example on an iPad, an average retailer only makes about $8 in profit. So that's really, really little. So you don't want to advertise with ads that cost you more than $8 to make profit on an iPad, except again if the iPad drives a lot of additional sales, like for example sleeves and cables and you name it. But then again, you need to look at the profitability of the ad, right? So knowing the maximum bid on Google is important. And actually, you can also set the maximum bid on Google Shopping, because that's not the bid you will typically pay. On Google, you pay the number 2 competitor plus 1 cent. So for example, if you set your bid to 60 cents and a competitor of yours sets the bid to, I don't know, 40 cents, you will pay 41 cents. So even if you had more room, you will not pay that amount of money. So therefore, my advice is set the maximum CPC bid, but only set it after you have determined the profitability. So you need to know the margin, right? And then you can go. Then you can really go. Unfortunately, as I said before, with Google, you cannot set a bid per product. So you need to bundle the products, or you need to categorize them. And you do that by bidding groups. You set bidding groups in Google AdWords. Sometimes you may already have something in place. You may work, for example, with low performance, high performance. You may use custom labels, for example, for season sales or autumn discount or whatever. One of the advices we give is start working with bidding groups that are CPC based, maximum CPC based, because you already know the acquisition margin, so you know the max CPC, as we just saw in the previous slide, right? So in this case, as you can see, we have a group A, B, C. You can set a maximum of 10. When you start, my advice is only set 2 or 3. You know, so go for example, 30 cents, and then start figuring out what the performance of the ads is, and then start making a more nitty-gritty bidding group strategy. And in this case, we set it to 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents, etc. So what would that look like in AdGraph again? Yep, we switched. Oh, let me first show you what you can do with the margin and where it comes from. This is an order, and in the order you can actually also see the customer journey. So it started out on this channel, then it went to an affiliate network, and as you can see, so the margin is also split across the different channels. So even though a channel is not the last, like the last visit or the last click, as analytics typically uses, we show you the margin that has been driven by this sale. And as you can see, in this case, it's only one product, and then you have the margin. But if you were to have 2 or 3 products, the margin would be higher, of course. So in this case, I've selected the eCPC, and as you can see, the eCPC is $33. Now that sounds okay, but is it okay? Well, let's look at it. Let's see if the eCPC is greater than the maximum CPC. That means that you are currently spending more than you should, right? The maximum C for a particular product was $8, and actually the eCPC that you've been paying was 33 cents. So even though the 33 cents sounded okay, it's not. So you should reduce the CPC. You can also do it the other way around, of course. You can also say, okay, so where's the eCPC less than the max CPC? And in this case, you see, for example, for a particular product, I've spent effective cost of calculator, that's $33. Actually, there was room to spend even more. In this case, although I said in the beginning, set the maximum CPC, in this case, I don't think you should set the $2.36. That's probably a little bit too much, but you know, you can increase. So, for example, in this case, currently it's 33 cents, and you can spend more. You can spend 41 cents. So you may put them. You can increase the bid. How do you do that? Well, as I said before, it's the best way of doing it actually is to use bidding groups. You saw the slide where we showed Google AdWords. So you set your bidding groups in Google AdWords. What you can do, for example, you can say for if the eCPC is, for example, between, I don't know, 50 cents and 70 cents. That is the wrong one. Apparently there isn't. Oh, sorry, I forgot. The eCPC was 3 cents, so it should have been the maximum CPC. So the maximum CPC is between 50 and 70 cents. In this case, it's only one product. But my advice would be select a product, so select them all, and put them, for example, in the bidding group of group F. That was the group of the 70 cents, right? And this is how you do it. So if a particular product has a maximum CPC over the past few, well, in this case it was 60 days, between 40 cents and 70 cents, put them in that higher bidding group. And you can do this for all the different products that you have. It's a very, very easy way of implementing bidding groups. It makes sure that you will not lose any money. And it also makes sure that if there's a room for acquisition, that you use it. Because many people are afraid to increase the CPC bid because they don't know if they can afford it. They don't know if that's like a blanco check for Google. But in this case, it's not, because you know exactly what you can afford, and you also know, well, actually, it's not no, but you can also track the performance. You saw what the profitability of the ads was, so you can really monitor that. This is actually the hardest part for people to implement, because they do not really know how to start. And one of the things we did a while ago is that we implemented something that we call Kickstart. So we help companies out setting up their strategy. So how do you map your products? How do you determine the best bidding strategy? And so for companies that are looking for some support, you can ask us, and we'll be more than happy to assist you in that. Because it's not that much of, it doesn't take that much time, but you have to know what you're doing, and then you can get the most out. basically you can beat all the other agencies or the other companies out there because they don't know the margin, they don't know the ROI of the products because they don't have an integrated system to help them. So this is the bidding group part. Yeah, I think that's the essential part for the whole presentation. So let's go back to the customer case. When we started, you saw the revenue was about $46,000. We started with the content track, so implementing Google taxonomies, using bidding groups. Oh, sorry, custom labels, some basic rules, etc. So after that, his revenue had gone with about 44%. More importantly, his profit had gone by with about 60% because the ads were more visible, but he only was advertising with relevant products. So the whole CTR went up. People were pretty happy. He didn't advertise with any products that were not in stock anymore, etc. So that was a major increase in revenue and profit from the content optimization part. Then we started introducing the bidding groups. I should say he started introducing the bidding group. So he started, actually he did this sequential. So he first did the content part and then the bidding group. So after the bidding optimization, the content optimization, he started with $67,000 in revenue. And after the optimization part with the bidding groups, it had gone to almost $87,000. So that meant an increase of 80% of revenue. But more importantly, because we started using the bidding groups, and in the beginning it was a little bit slow because we only went with 3 bidding groups. But after that, we used the full scale of the 10 bidding groups. Yeah, we really managed to navigate the products between the different bidding groups, upgrading and downgrading them, and he all did this by rules. So it was all automated. So he grew his profit from $1,700 to roughly $3,300 per month. So that was an increase of over 200%, which is a great result. And that's only from Google Shopping, by the way. So yeah, really good. Now, should you want to do this yourself, that's fine. You can easily install it, by the way. You need to install Anchor, which is the platform, and then you need to select the Google Shopping connector. That's pretty easy. Let me show you. This is our app store. So in AdCurve you have an app store, and all the advertising channels are basically pre-formatted, meaning that all the technical requirements, etc., have been implemented. You don't need to do any technical thing. The only thing you need to do, of course, is, for example, like with Google, you need to map the products to the right taxonomy, and you need to set rules, etc. But that is advertising channel specific. But in this case, as you see, you have a lot of different advertising channels like Criteo. You can also use eBay or whatever. And if you select an advertising channel from here, you need to insert your credentials. For example, with Google, that's your Merchant Center account. That means that we will submit an API. By the way, we don't use a feed, we use an API. That means that all product changes, stock changes, whatever, are distributed in real time to Google Shopping. And we also import the costs on a daily basis. That means that all the costs for all the different ads are in the system. So we can really use that to calculate the ROI. So this is the connection part. So then you've installed AdCurve and the Google Shopping connectors. As I said before, we import all the products automatically, including configurables and all the variants from Shopify. Then you need to map some products, custom labels, set the basic rules. Important to add your location, or it's actually the API location to the Merchant Center. You can even try and compare it with your existing feed. So put it in test mode, view the content. What's important to know is that if you continue, all the results of your current campaigns are retained. So you don't delete or ignore or existing campaigns, including quality score. That's really, really important. And in the end, you know, if you're happy with Google Shopping, I would encourage you to use it for all the other advertising channels as well, because you can basically manage them all from this one single dashboard and manage your products across all the different digital channels that you see. And you saw the customer journey, and the customer journey actually looks at all the different advertising channels that are involved. So even if, for example, an advertising typically appears only in the beginning of the customer journey, like in the beginning of the funnel. For example, the social media, they are usually in the inspiration or orientation phase and not in the action or the conversion phase. So in the end, it looks as if a channel is not profitable, where maybe they have driven your sales. So you do want to know what their value is, and that's what I've shown you, and that's what you can really use. And again, automate it. So please use a tool or tooling to support doing it. AdGrid is for free for the first 30 days. That's after you've installed, and only when we start tracking visits. And after that, it's only $19.50 per month. And should you require any assistance or whatever, as I said, we have this Kickstart service to help you out and yeah, to make you profit.